Hi, I'm Chloë from the Careers Portal. Today I sat down with the head of the Stadio School of Fashion, Maryne. We talk about what Stadio has to offer, their online virtual lookbook that they have going on, and we even touch on what the future of fashion will look like in South Africa. Hello, Maryne. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks, and yourself, Chloe.
Good, thank you. So, today we are joined by Maryne. She is the head of Stadio School of Fashion.
Right.
And yeah, she's going to answer a few questions for us on the fashion school, the fashion industry, and what they've got going on at the moment. So let's start off nice and simple. What is the Stadio School of Fashion?
So the Stadio School of Fashion is actually previously known as LISOF. So that is an institution with 25 plus years of experience within fashion education. So what happened is that we are now part of the Stadio group, which includes other subsidiaries as well. And basically what we do is we offer an array of fashion related qualifications. So we've got the Bachelor's of Arts, which specializes into buying, media and design. We've also got our BCom in fashion, which is bespoke. So it's a one-of-a-kind qualification that has got very specialized modules like, for instance, fashion practice, merchandising, buying and planning, consumer buying behavior, and trend analysis that's not actually prone to a normal qualification. So that gives you the broader scope of the BCom, as well as very much specialized within the media itself. Then we've also got our higher certificates in design and media. We've got higher certificate in fashion retail, higher certificate in digital marketing practices, and honors in fashion. So we have got a whole basket that speaks to students with different interests, students with different eligibility to enter the higher education space, and basically with the big and main focus being on fashion education.
Yeah, so students can kind of pick the degree or certificate that fits their interest. It's very varied.
It is very varied. And also we are continuously looking for new developments where there's a need within the student body of the future so that we can create new qualifications that align directly to what industry requires. So anybody with an interest in fashion and the fashion related supply chain and trends, this is the place to come to.
So I see on your website at Stadio School of Fashion, you say you pride yourself in being the most progressive design school and fashion school in South Africa. So what sets the Stadio School of Fashion apart from other fashion schools?
So obviously from the school itself, so I'm a bit biased in my opinion. I do think that starting from the ground up, if you look at our lecturing cohort, we've got people with vast industry experience, people still active in industry, working on projects, being an active voice within that industry. So we've got that layer of intellect contributing to our curriculum relevance, etc. And then when we look at the three goals of Stadio. So the first one is the widening of access that we touched on a bit earlier. So we've got the high certificates, diplomas, we've got honors. So we've got all of those qualifications. And then we also support articulation pathways because you know that sometimes it happens where you actually want to do a degree, but you don't qualify for entering into the degree study. So we offer you like a higher certificate that can assist you with achieving your own personal goals. So the widening of access is a very big part in what we see as being a very progressive stance on it. The other one is our learning at the center, students at the core approach, which means that we are doing away with a very didactic form of lecturing. We've got someone standing in the front. We try and make things more practical, more hands-on, getting it almost like a feel of what it would be in industry. And then the third one is also actively focusing on industry relationships. So this year is a very big drive for us. So we are busy cultivating international and local industry relationships so that some of our assessment briefs are actually endorsed by industry so that when a student enters, they know that this is actually what is happening in the world of work. And because you know that actually which came first, chicken or the egg, when they post a job advert, they want experience, but you've just finished your qualification, but they want qualification and experience, that normal conundrum. So we try and allow students to gain experience while they are busy studying. And this is something that we really pride ourselves on, is the fact that we've got a few international people also there guiding our thinking, guiding what we're doing, and actively involved in our curriculum and practices. So I think that in itself speaks to the way in which we are thinking and the which way we are approaching the new world of education, because it is actively changing as we speak.
Yes, it just seems like Stadio School of Fashion has a very big sort of focus on the individual, like the individual student,
But that's why we say the students at the center. So everything we do is to really make sure that that pathway for that student that comes in, it's part of a family. We do see ourselves at the moment. Remember, we come from a very small background. We were this like small institution. Now we're part of a bigger scope, but we still apply that individual attention. So we've got our student support and success happening at each institution and at our school as well, where we really try and cater for each individual. I mean, you can imagine being at a fashion institute, there's a lot of individual people walking around with individual, personality and styles and everything. So it really contributes to this very, very interesting and dynamic culture and environment.
I love that. So could you walk us through what is a day in the life of a Stadio student, or what is it like to be a student at the Stadio School of Fashion?
So I think to answer this one, I'm actually going to refer to comments made by one of our students. He completed his studies last year. He did a higher certificate and he's now in the honors. So the reason for that big jump is Stefan Valentin is actually someone who's been at institutions for 8 years of his life. He is a committed student. So he's gone to public and private, etc. And when you speak to him, and he will contest to it, it's just that from the moment that he arrived, he felt much more hands-on, and also that the work was very relevant that students do. So the first thing that he notes, and that I think a lot of students will contest to, is that there's a lot of focus on the practical, the industry relationship. So you would, as a student, come in, you would go, if you're doing the design curriculum, you will enter a practical class that's a 5-hour session where you will really hone your skills on the creative design, the garments and the patterns. So it will be very much a moment where you gain your practical knowledge. For the other students, when you enter, there will be dynamic lecturers. They will be instilling the ways of the industry with you. There will be the theoretical or more theoretically heavy components within the curriculum, because obviously we do align to the CHE regulations so that we can have qualifications pitched at this level. And for those students, it will always be industry relevant, and you will be part of this very, like I think I hinted on earlier, dynamic team of lecturers speaking to you from experience from the industry. You've got industry contributing to what you are saying. You've got a multitude of other very dynamic individuals sharing your classroom with you, where you can have interesting debates and where you can actually go and sophisticate your way of thinking and designing and working, towards your career. And I think that's an important part that we really try to push this year, is the concept of unity through diversity, where we speak about that we are unified under the context of fashion, but everyone with their diverse backgrounds and taste and way of designing or thinking about supply chains and business, they all contribute to this unity of what the fashion landscape looks like. And I think as a student, you will walk into this very dynamic and vibrant context.
That's amazing. I love that. So you touched on the emphasis on the practical side of the degree.
Yes.
So how is Stadio School of Fashion operating during the pandemic? Are you guys having in-person classes? And what happens with the practical work that goes along with a fashion degree?
Yeah, so that's a very tricky and it was a very uncharted territory for us last year. So up until last year, we discussed, should we move certain components online? And we felt very much comfortable in the fact that we are a contact institution. That's how we're registered at the CHE, and this is how we operate. But 2020 brought about a major change very quickly. And going into 2021, COVID didn't pack its bags by the end of last year and left the shore. So we're still in a bit of an in-between space. So for us, we are now approaching teaching and learning through the hybrid model, which means that we schedule our classes so that you would have some of your classes in the contact space, while, say, for instance, first year are on campus, and then second and third are not, just so that we can adhere to social distancing norms, etc. And during that time, we curate the practical components as well as some of the theoretical sides where you need to engage with debate face-to-face, etc. The rest of it, and this is something we're very excited about, is it's moved into the online space, which is on the Canvas virtual learning environment. So that is a very big step for us. The lecturers have gone through rigorous training from last year already. So they didn't really have a break. They were up and going, practicing their skills. So we're doing a bit of both in the hybrid model, which in theory would probably be the way in which education will move. So for us, we will never be online solely, because there is something about three-dimensional space when you work with textiles, where you need to actually feel it. We need to work with your draping over a three-dimensional body. So those things, even though we can facilitate it online, I do think, and I think we all agree, that the magic happens when you are in a class and when you can put your hands onto the actual fabric and you can share and watch what the others are doing, because peer learning is also a very important part of the creative space.
We're on the topic of the COVID-19 pandemic,
Yes.
And everything that it's thrown our way. So students have had to change, fashion students have had to change the way that they present their work, show their work, and that includes fashion shows. So I see that the Stadio School of Fashion has opted to do their annual fashion show in a sort of virtual space and online. So could you tell us more about that?
Yes, so like I said, we are, for 25 years, we've been doing fashion shows, and that was kind of a big drawing card for us. So the big loss from 2020 was when we had to rethink how are we going to showcase our students' work at the end of the year. And the idea came about to create this digital lookbook, which then students for first and second year, they would have their final products produced in an image gallery. And our third year students have got like their own pages where they've got their rationale headed on there, so they can talk about what inspired them for the design, and you can see their full range. And this was professionally photographed by a renowned fashion photographer, Frankie Berger. She's also a lecturer at our institution, and we were very, very thankful to have a keen eye there. And basically what we've got is we've got our third year full ranges professionally photographed, and then that would also become part of their body of work. So in other words, this one, the longevity of this is much more superior to that of the fashion show. These students actually have got it now. It's located on the Design Space website, and people from industry, people from the general public are all coming to view their work, and they've got a chance to vote on it. So it's becoming a much more vibrant and engaging space for these students to produce their work.
Yes, yes. So when does has it gone live, the virtual lookbook?
That is gone live. We are very excited to announce that if you want to go look at it, you can go to Stadio Design Space, one word, .co.za. And from there, you can click on the 2020 fashion show, which will link you to where all these ranges are. And from there, you can go and you can look at it and you can vote as well. So at the end of each of the ranges, there's a little like button you can click, and then you will be asked to sign into Facebook. And through there, you can vote for our students. And then on the 8th of April, we've got a big industry engagement event happening where we will indicate the winners. So we've got 3 categories in which the judges are asked to vote. The one is for the best commercial range. That's the one that is sellable to public. So it's got hanger appeal. So when you see it, you would want to buy it. The next one is for best conceptual. That is for our very creative students who came forward with something innovative and interesting and really, what can I say, like very innovative. I might just have to run with that word, innovative, so that actually stands out from the crowd. And the third one is the best depiction of the WGSN trend. So how the student interpreted a trend and how it was actually reflected in their design.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that, so many institutions and schools have had to adopt to this new way of being and learning. And I just love the idea of a virtual lookbook. So, yeah, I can tell our viewers to go and cast your votes. I've actually had a look, and what these students have come up with is stunning. I'm blown
Can
away.
I just say on that note, so you have to understand that these students, the same as the lecturers, were all in a bit of a panic because suddenly we were rushed into this online space. These students showed resilience right through this COVID pandemic. I mean, the fact that they were able to produce these, I mean, those are wonderful garments for the first and second years. And then when you get to the third years and you see that whole collection or the range, it actually blows your mind that these students had that agility to adapt to this very changing times and still produce work that is noteworthy. And I mean, it's really popping when you see these ranges. So I think, from my side, I'm quite humbled by what the students managed to achieve.
Yes, you guys have to go and check it out. They are incredible. Segueing a little bit,
Yes.
Sustainable fashion and ethical consumption are kind of the buzzwords at the moment. So what is Stadio School of Fashion's role in creating a more ethically sustainable future in the fashion industry?
So basically, while sustainability and conscious consumption may seem like relatively new terms, but these have been driving forces in the industry for a decade or so. So we have been adapting our curriculum to accommodate this. So from the first year, students are taught about the economic lay of their pattern pieces to ensure that there is limited wastage going in. So it's a very much a conscious drive throughout the curriculum to be ethical designers, and then that speaks to the ethical consumers, which we know will be the consumers leading the pack in the near future. So we've got that. And then our current head of department for the design space, James, is busy talking to industry. So we are trying to work together with industry to work on recycling, so that we can actually use the waste that comes from the fashion show, and or if it's going to be the new fashion lookbook, but every time they work towards a garment, so that we can actually repurpose this and rework it into a different type of textile that can be reused again and again. So that is part of our big industry liaison drive as well. So this is something that we are busy discussing, and it's part of our strategic plan. But we want to, it's very fine to sit back and say, listen, we're doing what we can in the curriculum, but we now try and take it almost a layer above the curriculum to say, okay, so we are now covering the way in which you think as a student, in which you problem solve, in which you show that you are diligent when you talk about environmental challenges, because we all know the fashion industry is a big culprit when it comes to actually wastage and landfills, etc. So it's fine to know about it in the theoretical space and adapting towards it during your formal classes, but you also need to lead by example. And that's why we are trying very hard to now get industry relationships going, so that we can actually become an active player saying, this is what we do, this is what we plan to do, and this is kind of like we put our stake in the ground and say, you as part of our student cohort can go and mimic this when you go into the world of work. So that's also part of what we're doing and actively changing.
I love that, leading by example. It's instilling that into your students, and it's something that we all need to be thinking about, but I guess especially in the fashion industry.
It is, because of with the fast fashion and the slow fashion, there's always the debate. There's always the capital side and there's the environmental side, and it's always the debate. But I think that we have made our decision, and we're going to stand firm that leading by example is actually the only way to teach with this new cohorts coming in.
No, definitely. So you touched on the higher certificates and Bachelor of Arts sort of courses that you offer, but I see that you offer quite a few short courses. So maybe could you walk me through them, and maybe what's your most popular?
So we have got a very dynamic short learning program manager as well, Stefani. And so she is curating those as well. So we've got the 3 that is always a popular one, because this is what people are generally interested in. And that is our garment construction, where you are taken through the whole process of learning how to sew. So even if you've got no contact with the sewing machine up until this point, you are guided through in terms of what to do. No, you're not the only one. You're not the only one up there. So we walk you through very carefully in terms of how to approach it. We take you through another short learning program that is the pattern design, so that you can actually create your own patterns and then use the skill to create your own. So it's not only within one set of patterns, but you can replicate it into different types of wear. And then the other one is the creative design, the one that is most lucrative, because that's where you can actually go and hone your skills to design. So not a lot of people are practitioners, so they are scared of the equipment and the machinery, but you can still be a designer where you can conceptualize designs. And that's that one. Another one that's also very, very popular is the short learning program in makeup. So this is one that most people like. We've got the MAC kit, so it is completely professionally aligned to what industry uses as a little bit of a side hustle, where you can go and you can offer your services. So you learn there's 2 layers of that. You learn the basic makeup introduction to do your beauty makeup, and then there's another one for bridal wear. That's the second level. So you can really come in and specialize in the makeup short learning program as well, for a little bit of extra income. And we've got very dynamic lecturers there as well that's ready to hold your hand and guide you through the very daunting process of applying makeup to other people, because it's fine doing it to yourself, but when you've got a bottle twitching and it's just like lashes going everywhere when you're touching the final space. So they walk you through it. And then we are now also investigating 3 new short learning programs, which is one in entrepreneurship. So if you have graduated and you actually want to take your product or your design to market, in terms of how you can facilitate that. Got another one coming up in footwear design. So if we look at you going through a process to create a sandal by the end of your short learning program. And then the third one that we are also excited about is the Lectra component, where we will take you through the Lectra, which is a pattern making process that also speaks to the needs of the industry. So that one will focus on alumni and people with a bit of pattern making experience that want to actually level up in their skill set.
Wow. I mean, this is incredible. What does Stadio School of Fashion not do? But besides from this excellent teaching program, what other facilities do you have to offer your students?
So what we do have is we've got two beautiful sites. The one is in Hatfield and the one is in Randburg. And both of them have got canteens that have got a beautiful interior, where it's a nice space for students to just regroup and to just have a bit of social, because even though the curriculum's quite packed, we still provide some time, COVID permitting, for them to just spend a bit of time together. We've got two functioning libraries at each site, and one of our big drivers for this year, and we've got a lovely head librarian, Yvonne, who is busy looking at the future of libraries and how we can adapt and change our current libraries, also to allow students to become more acquainted with, because I mean, libraries now is basically, people see Google as the way to access information. So we've got our librarian looking at how we can make it more accessible so that we can see the value in knowledge reproduction. We've got online libraries as well, that you've got assistance from the librarians to help you through it. And then we've got in Johannesburg, specifically at the Randburg campus, a beautiful rooftop that overlooks the whole of Sandton. And you've got the most gorgeous views from there, also just to calm your mind and calm your soul when you look at it. So it's basically, it's a full functioning campus life. And in Hatfield, you are right in the middle of the student village, if you will. So everything is right there. The Hatfield Square, University of Pretoria is very close. So they've got that hustle and bustle there. While Randburg is more a bit of a jewel in the suburbs, where you've got the beautiful rooftop and your community happening in the school itself.
I see that your applications are still open. When do
Correct.
they close, and how would someone go about applying?
So our applications will close fairly soon, because we start classes on the 6th of April. So at the moment, we are still in discussions about when the official closing date will be, because we do understand there's a lot of financial strain on the general community as well. But if people are interested, classes start on the 6th of April, and they can go to stadio.ac.za. And there's a big button right at the top of this website that says apply now, and you can just click on it, and it will take you through the whole registration and enrollment process.
Awesome. So are there any alternative funding avenues that students can explore access?
Yes, so we have got three options there. The one is we've got a partnership with Fundi. This was previously EduLoan, and we've negotiated a very favorable lending rate. It's prime plus 1% for those who qualify for the funding, whereas other loan companies offer up to 20% interest rates. So that's a very nice one that we can offer. And then Capitec has just announced that from mid-March, they will launch a loan availability to students that they can also click and access directly from the stadio.ac.za website, and apply with almost instantaneous feedback on whether or not they qualify for the loan. And then they can further their studies immediately from there. And the third one is we've also partnered with industry people like Mr. Price for joint bursary funds. And this can be accessed through the Office of the Registrar. So that's Lee Wayner, and it's Lee at, not LISOF, Lee at stadio.ac.za. And people can request for bursary information directly from the registrar. So that's all our alternative funding opportunities that we've got available.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll leave that in the description of this video, so you can go check those out if you want to. So my last question would kind of be looking towards the future. So what does life look like for a Stadio School of Fashion graduate, and what jobs are there on offer?
So I think it's very exciting, especially in us working closely with industry and getting feedback from industry. We've got a whole array of careers that you can look at. The one, obviously, for the design students is being that of a designer, which they all actually are aspiring to. And then also we've got visual merchandiser, makeup artist. We've got the media specialization as well. That means that for Instagram, you can start working towards an Instagram portfolio to become an active influencer. We do broadcasting, so it's public relations, it's anything from broadcast media that you can go into that field for a career. Our BCom students are very much invested in supply chain and really managing the whole production of the fashion process. So there is fashion retail also on the cards. So there is a lot of diverse. It's not only, and obviously the stylist as well. It's not only the designer. There's a lot of different ways in which the industry can employ you. And it's all about, we are giving the students enough tools and confidence that they can actually go and take over whatever they want to take over, as long as they contribute as well from their side. It's one thing sitting back and saying, here it is. And the other one, if you are actively engaged, I do believe firmly that the world is your oyster. And I think that fashion in South Africa is really on the rise, and people are becoming more and more aware of the importance of this context.
Yes, fashion in South Africa. I do think that there needs to be so much more importance placed on that, and I can just see the industry up on the up and up.
Absolutely, especially if you look at all the creativity in our students. It's amazing, and it's really it's beautiful to watch it being developed, and I do think it aligns perfectly to industry.
Yeah. So where can people get in contact with Stadio? Where do we find you guys?
So it's very simple. Everything for us is consolidated on the stadio.ac.za website, and there is one big button that says please contact us, and if you click on that, you can actually choose which faculty you want to approach. So you would also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Mostly when you put in Stadio_design, you'll find Stadio design for Instagram and Facebook, and we are listed right there, and you can DM us and we will respond to you from there as well.
Awesome. Super easy. So much for taking time out of your day to chat to us. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I think that our viewers will too. And I hope that you have a lovely day further.
Oh, thank you very much. It was lovely talking to you and talking to you about our students and our love for fashion. So thank you for the opportunity and have a great day as well.
That's all from us today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have Stadio's contact information linked in the description box down below, as well as our own. We'll see you next time. Bye.